Radio Split Ranch.
Hello and welcome once again to Radio Split Ranch, a monthly visit with the Capital Region's great broadcasters of the past and sometimes present. I'm Warren Garling when I'm not on the radio. Our guest this month is someone who kind of backed into the business and came to stay a while. When I asked him to be my guest, he said he'd been hoping I'd call, as he had a lot of stories to share about his career at one of the most successful FM rockers in the market, and the only station he ever worked for, WPYX in Albany, New York, better known as Pix 106. Meet Gary Locatelli, whom you know better perhaps as Uncle Vito. Well, I guess most everybody knows this man as Vito, but if you don't mind, we're going to use his given name in this interview. Gary Locatelli, Uncle Vito, thank you for your time today.
Oh, glad to do this. Been looking forward to it.
Well, good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. No, we had to include your story here. You've got some fun ones to tell, and we'll get into all that. But I guess, now, are you a local boy? I know you are now, but did you grow up and be raised around here?
Yeah, I've lived all my life in Johnstown, New York.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
Yep.
Career-wise, I don't believe radio was your first chosen career, but I may be wrong because I haven't done any research on you whatsoever. So tell us a little bit about the how you grew up.
Well, I started on a career. I wanted to be a history teacher. I was always interested in history.
Okay.
And, I went to college and started off on that path to take history. Of course, life always gets in the way. And that changed, and I ended up getting married and having children. But the constant from the minute I was a young child until today has been music. I love music. I love all kinds of music.
Nice.
I can hear a classical piece and like that. Of course, my main thing is rock and roll. I like classic rock. I like some of the modern day music. Not a lot of it, but there's some that catches my ear and I get into it.
Good for you.
One of the things that I got out of college, I wasn't very big on taking gym class.
Okay.
And that was kind of one of the required courses that you were supposed to take.
Oh, sure.
I went to Fulton Montgomery Community College.
Okay.
So as a alternative to that, you could take a few other courses and they would count toward that requirement.
Right.
And I took music appreciation class.
Ah, okay.
And that was one of the best things I think I ever took in that short college career, because we learned how to listen to music. We listened to things like Gregorian chant. We listened to classical music, but we were taught to listen to when we listen to a classical piece, is that a violin playing? Is that a cello playing?
Sure.
What is it? Is that a French horn? Is that a trumpet? So you really had to have a good ear for that. And through the years, I guess that really stuck with me. Sometimes I'd be listening to something here at home on the stereo, and my wife would go, "That's awful. Why are you listening to that? That is just that music." I go, "Yeah, but," I go, "listen to the bass player." I go, "The bass player is fantastic. That bass line he's playing is something else."
Yeah.
So I guess that's where things came from. And then I actually never thought about being on the radio.
Okay.
I guess I can't say I didn't think about it. Of course, it entered my mind, but
Right.
it wasn't something I said, "Oh, I'm going to," I worked in factories. I was a supervisor for a while, and that led to a supervisory position at our local hospital at the time, used to have Johnstown Hospital.
Okay.
And I was working there as the supervisor for the housekeeping staff. I would oversee them and do contracts with the laundry and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And, and then out of that came radio, I guess.
Now, how did that actually happen? I don't think I've ever really heard this story, and I know we've talked a couple of times, but tell me how that all came about.
Well, I think the first thing that happened was I was out sick one day, And I came back the next day, and a friend of mine was the head of the X-ray department. And he goes, "Oh, we have this thing every year where our departments entertain the other departments, do something for the other departments." And he says, "Somebody told me you play guitar." I said, "And sing." I go, "Well, yeah, I'm not really good on the guitar." I says, "I do think I can sing pretty well." He goes, "Well, I play bass and that." He says, "Let's get together and we'll do entertainment for the people in the cafeteria."
Cool.
So we did. And yeah, it went over well, and we kept being friends. And after that, they asked us, because of what we'd done for that, they said, "Hey, would you guys, you know what you're doing? Would you like to be the head of the committee for our Christmas party this year?"
Mm-hmm.
And they go, "It's been kind of going downhill. We haven't had really good attendance the last few years. We need something. We figure you guys know what you're doing." So I've always been kind of creative. So I came up with the idea of, we're going to have special guest star at the Christmas party.
Ah.
My friend and I dressed up as the Blues Brothers. We went to the party early and as just ourselves, and sat with our wives and that. Now, when it came time, and we had rehearsed this, we had a cassette backing of music and that.
Mm-hmm.
We got up and we went in this back room and dressed up as the Blues Brothers.
Okay.
And came out and sang, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 songs. I sang them, and my buddy was Elwood. He was rolling around on the floor and carrying the briefcase.
Yeah.
So naturally, I wore the sunglasses and the fedora and the black suit and all that.
Yeah.
Then that led to me being asked to speak at my boss's retirement party.
Okay.
Now, I thought everybody's going to speak at his retirement party and say what a wonderful guy he was. He was the head of charge of building and maintenance, this guy was.
Okay.
And they're all going to talk about how wonderful he did things for him and all this and that. Well, I figured if everyone's going to do that, I wanted to do something a little bit different. So the night of the party, I sat in the back of the room, and when the speaker before me started, I snuck off and put on a black shirt, white necktie, black overcoat, scarf, black fedora, fake pencil thin mustache, red carnation boutonniere, and I lit up a cigar.
Okay.
And when it was my turn to speak, I came out, strolled to the podium, and delivered a speech full of jokes telling how this guy had been on the take all these years, and he was while he was at the hospital, and thanked him. I was the godfather.
Okay.
And I thanked him for all his contracts and favors he bestowed upon me for kickbacks. And I killed it. I was the hit of the party.
There you go. Excellent.
And that was 6 months before I ever donned that outfit and persona again for a radio event.
Okay. And so, how did that come about?
I was on vacation for 2 weeks, and I got into listening to Pix 106 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it was Mason and Nash in the morning, and I really enjoyed the show. So then I was listening. I went back to work, and I was listening one day, and I heard I heard what I thought was a contest to win a trip to Los Angeles, I believe, to see Bruce Springsteen.
Nice.
I thought, boy, that would be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't very attentive in my hearing, though, because I thought they said, it was for best costume, and it was a Halloween party. Okay. It was going to be at Coco's.
Yeah.
Over on Western Avenue.
Yeah.
So I was talking with my friend there that we did the Blues Brothers act with, and I said, I'm going to dress up like that Godfather character, and I'm going to go to that thing, because I thought, I looked pretty good dressed up that way.
Yeah, sure.
And I said, I might win this trip. And then we're talking, and I said, I need some kind of edge, though. I need something to be noticed. And at the time, they were doing the Nut Line on Mason's show.
Okay.
Where people called in and did various characters and, did a little shtick for 30 seconds or whatever.
Right.
So I said, I'm going to call that Nut Line ahead. And then, maybe they'll notice me. So Tuesday, I had a script all written out, and I called in and did the show with him in the morning. He did the script, and sure enough, he put it on air. And, I started it out. Good morning, Bobby. I'm your long lost Uncle Vito from Bayonne, New Jersey. And he got a kick out of that.
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly what the whole thing was.
Sure.
I just went off for a while.
What year would you say this was, Gary?
86, 87.
Okay.
I think it was 86.
Okay, cool.
So then Thursday, I said, well, I better do it again. So I had a script already, and I called in, and Curtis Sliwa from the Guardian Angels was on.
Yes, he used to go on there with them quite often, yep.
And I started doing going my route, and they threw me, they went off from where I was going, went in another direction. But I kept up with them, and I did the bit, and sure enough, it played again.
Nice.
So Friday morning, I thought, well, let's go. We went to the Breakfast Club. My brother-in-law dressed up as my bodyguard, Anthony, at the time. And there was a huge line. They used to get huge turnouts for those things.
Yeah.
And there was a huge line there. And we're standing out in the parking lot in line. And Cliff Nash comes walking out, and he's walking down through the line looking for people and this and that. And he sees me and spots me, and he goes, hey, are you that Uncle Vito guy that was called in here a couple times this week?
Wow.
And I says, yeah. And he goes, Bob wants to meet you. Come with me. I'll get you in. So he took me in, and he took me up to Bob. And, I introduced myself, and we said hello. And Bob's like, okay, here's what I want to do. And at the time, what's her name, was running for vice president, the first woman there.
Geraldine Ferraro?
Geraldine Ferraro.
Yep.
So he had some skit he wanted to do about that, right?
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And a little background, I used to imbibe a lot back in those days. Something I'm not really that proud of now, but I wasn't feeling any pain at the time, let's say. So Bob's going through this whole scenario of, I'm going to say this, you say that, I'm going to say this, you're going to say that, and I'm looking around. I mean, this was a Halloween party.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of things going on, a lot of people dressed a lot of ways. He gets all done, and the guy, producer, whoever yells over, Bob, 30 seconds to air. And Bob's like, okay. And I'm like, Bob, why? I go, I don't remember what the hell you wanted me to say.
Oh, no.
And he's like, I go, don't worry. I go, just start. I go, we'll do it. So he started, and it went off well.
Mm-hmm.
It went smooth, beside the fact that there was a girl in a teddy dressed on her knees behind me, running her hand up and down inside my leg. I kept my composure and did the spot with Bob, and he was happy about it. And I was wrong about the contest. Like I said, I hadn't been very attentive about listening. It wasn't the best costume. It was the sexiest. So there was all kinds of ladies running around.
Well,
very skimpy outfits and that.
Sure.
And, I'm like, hey, this isn't bad. This is a good thing here. Look, And I got home afterwards that day, and my wife's like, so how was it? And I go, gee, it was pretty good. I didn't tell her kind of at the time.
Right.
I said, I think I'm going to keep this up and go to the next one.
Jeez.
So I did. I kept calling. After that, I kept calling. I would call. I don't know if I called every day back then, but I started calling them all the time.
Crazy.
And that's kind of how things got going. That's how Uncle Vito got established. And
yeah, that's quite the story, Gary. And it turned your life into, took a corner that you probably never saw coming.
Exactly. I started doing other voices too for the show. I think I did like about 9 different characters falling in.
Good for you. Now, in high school, did you do any kind of acting? Did you get into the drama? None of that stuff.
I was just a clown in school.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's still.
I think I came in second for class clown.
Clown. Okay. Couldn't even do that right.
If they did it today, I'd probably win.
Probably. Yeah. Well, that's just, well, first of all, you had to have the guts to try to do stuff like this, even back to, getting up as the Godfather, at your boss's event there. I mean, there's got to be something inside you that says, I can do this. This is nothing, it's part of your personality.
Well, you know what, Warren? We're going to backtrack a little bit here. It kind of goes back to when my mother instilled all this in me. My mother liked music. She liked to listen to music too when I was little. I could remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in the 5th grade and the 6th grade, they had a talent show at the school. And I won it both years in a row.
Wow.
And the way I won it was I pantomimed to songs. The first year, I think I pantomimed to All American Boy.
Okay.
The song All American Boy.
Yeah.
They gather around, cats, and tell me a story, right? That thing.
Yeah.
And my mother coached me on how to do it. I had a little guitar, and she coached me, do this and do that, dress me up, I think, in a jean jacket and stuff like that. Then the next year, I did Alley Oop by the Hollywood Argyles.
Oh, sure. Yeah, classic.
And my mother made me a beatnik, but she made me a leopard skin like toga to wear. And I can remember I had underneath, I actually had video of that.
Oh, wow.
That my mother took movies of. She drew like a mustache on me or whatever, and maybe a goatee, and I had a black beret. And so I did pantomime to that, and I won both those things.
Oh.
So I've always, I look back at other movies we had, and I see in the family, I mean, I might have been 5, 6, 7 years old. I'm in front of everybody in the family with a guitar, and
there you go.
Playing around and trying to. So I guess it's something that's always been in me.
Yeah, my boys did that growing up. They loved pretending to play the guitar to rock and roll music in the living room, and one of them pursued acting for a while. Then he found sports, and that was the end of that. But he starred in the nursery school play as Peter Rabbit. That was his first starring role. And then, then middle school, he did a couple of leads in a couple of plays and such. And I'm thinking, okay, he's going to live out the dream that I did. And I was in all the plays in junior and senior high school, but never after that. I was terrible at memorizing scripts. And so I just I never could memorize my parts. And so I never pursued it after that. And as I say, he got waylaid by lacrosse, and now he teaches lacrosse at City College of New York. So I guess he went the right direction there,
When you say about you couldn't memorize a script, it's not that important. I used to tell this sometimes. The kids from the new radio school would come through.
Oh, sure. Yeah. New School of Contemporary Radio.
I would tell them one thing that was important. I would say, nobody knows what you're supposed to say.
True.
I says, usually, know, I mean, there might be a one other person, but I says, but don't stop. And, worst come to worst, just hit music and keep it going.
Right. Plug on through. Exactly. Yeah.
And that came from when I was a kid. I used to watch, there was what the heck was it? Some talent show that was on there.
Okay.
I can't remember, back in the 50s or early 60s. And they had this girl come on one day, Ted Mack, amateur.
That's it. Yep. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
And this girl came out one day, and she was going to do animal noises or something.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And she came out, and she stood there on the stage, and she goes, cow. And then she was like silent. She got stage fright or something. And then she started crying. On camera.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I saw that, and I go, I don't ever want to be like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I used to go and do my radio show, and I would sit at home and do radio prep all morning for when I did afternoons, or when I did whatever show I was doing. I did a lot of prep.
Good.
And I would go in, I'd have a lot of it scripted and outlined, but and then I'd get on air and I'd end up ad-libbing or whatever. And you can
But
tell
like you
by
say,
the way I'm going with this, I like to talk.
And like you say, people don't know. I heard somebody make a comment the other day. They went to a one woman show on Broadway and said, and she did it perfectly. And I'm thinking, how do you know? Do you know what the next line's going to be? She may have ad-lib part of that. She may have gotten off script, but if she's professional about it, you don't know if she did or didn't, So you're a smart man. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, people listening, especially on the radio, they can't see you. So
yeah, exactly. So it leads to quite a relationship. You outlasted some of his partners along the way.
I outlasted almost everybody there.
Yeah, actually, you did. Now that you think about it,
yeah. John Cooper.
Yeah, exactly. Who's still doing it?
yeah. And I was kind of part of bringing him over from that time. There was a situation where he gave his notice over there, but he couldn't come over for a couple of weeks or something.
QBK, yeah. Yep.
So we did a lot of skits on air about it, where I was negotiating as Uncle Vito his release. And I guess the day when he finally parachuted into Lake George, that morning or the day before I announced that, it finally, whatever, I broke somebody's knees or something and got him released from his contract so he could come in.
Oh, man, and that goes all the way back to theater of the mind. That's what's so great about radio is that you could you think of the old Stan Freberg commercials that he'd do on radio, and you really believed that he picked up a pond and moved it, because of the sound effects and the verbiage that was used, and that whole theater of the mind thing is what grabbed me very early on in radio.
That brings us, I think, to the next stage.
Okay.
Where when I was calling in and doing these skits in the morning, everybody else was just calling and talking and saying whatever.
Right.
Well, I started putting sound effects and things in the background.
Oh, interesting.
And one of the sound effects I had a album by, what is it? National Lampoon.
Oh, sure.
Album.
Yeah.
And there was like a cocktail party or something on it in one part.
Yeah.
And it had a good crowd noise and cocktail, and it went on for, a couple of minutes or something.
Sure.
So it was good enough to go along. So I'd call up sometimes in the morning and talk to Bob and have this sound going on in the background.
In the background, yeah.
And say, hey, we're having a party up here at the compound and Ted Kennedy's here. I'd have Ted Kennedy there or whoever was. I'd look and see what was going on in the current events news or whatever.
The news, yeah.
And that person would be at my party, and I'd make some joke about it or something.
Sure.
They liked that. They were like, holy cow, this guy's doing this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the hospital closed while I was doing all this.
Sure.
And so for a while, I was unemployed, and then I ended up going to work at where my wife had worked at the Johnstown Knitting Mill. They needed a supervisor for their night crew, and I hated it. I hated working at night.
Oh, yeah.
But I was working a night shift, and I'd be up in the morning. I'd go home in the morning and do some skits with Bob, and then I'd go to sleep.
Sure.
One day I went to sleep and the phone's ringing, and I picked it up, and it was Ed Levine, who was the station manager at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, hey, how would you like your own show on the station?
Wow.
And I go, what? And he goes, well, how would you like your own show? I go, I don't know. I don't know how to do it, run the equipment or anything. And he goes, don't worry about it. We'll have somebody here. We'd like you to do something like you do when you call Bob with a whole party thing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, all right, let me think about it. They offered me $5 an hour and wanted me to do 7 to 11 on Saturday night.
Okay.
So I had become friends with David Allen of Pick a Show fame.
Oh, sure. Yeah. From the 60s. Yep. And
I called David and I told him what was going on. We had met at a couple of the breakfast clubs and became friends. And, I said, I don't know, David. I go, it's going every Saturday night. I'm going there for $20 driving from Johnstown down. I said, I'll burn that in gas.
Exactly.
Going back and forth. He goes to me, he says, you know what? He says, do it. He says, do it. If you only do it for 6 months, he says, you can someday tell your grandchildren I had my own radio show on one of the top radio stations, trendsetters in the country, which Pix was at that time.
Absolutely.
And he says, you can, I would do it. So I did.
Good for you. Okay. Good for you. So and for him. Yeah.
So that was the start of Uncle Vito's Saturday night house party.
Excellent.
Theater of the mind. Used to have a crowd noise going on behind me. We were coming to you live from the compound.
Yeah.
And I would take requests over the air and everything. That started, I think it was the other day. I noticed on my calendar it was like 37 years ago or something.
My Lord.
Back in May.
Yeah.
That I started that.
Pix 106. Good evening, and welcome to a special edition of the house party. Tonight is our annual Halloween ball at the compound, and I've decided to tell the haunting tale of John Jarback and the legend of Frog Hollow. During the next 5 hours, you'll hear mystery and suspense, be able to make requests and dedications, pick up some trick-or-treats, and listen to some hauntingly great rock and roll. So turn out the lights, put out the camp, light some candles, and get ready to shiver to the bone as I weave the tale of the legend of Frog Hollow in the still of the night at Uncle Vito's house party on Pix 106.
And what happened was I used to have somebody sitting there doing things for me. But
sure.
Little by little, I'd watch what they were doing, and I'd say, hey, can I try that? Can I try queuing up the record? Yeah, I think I can do it. So then I did that. Hey, can I try this? Yeah. After a while, I kind of learned everything. Then I went in one day and I said, I'd like more money. Well, we don't know if we got money. I go, well, how much you pay that guy to sit with me Saturday night?
Uh-huh.
Why? I go, because I don't need him. I can do everything he does.
There you go.
You can. I go, yep. I said, I asked him, and he let me do this. And okay, well, you're going to have to, back then you needed an FCC license.
Right, needed a third-class license. Take the meter readings.
You're going to need so I still got mine. And I took the test, and I got the license.
Yeah.
And got rid of the person and started doing the show myself.
And got a little bit more money in the long run. There you go.
Got more money and got in trouble.
Okay. Were you a tight board operator, as we used to say? Did you run a tight board?
My one friend, the one that did the Blues Brothers with me,
yeah,
he told me, he says, I can tell when you're on the radio, because he says the segues are the best. He says they're tight and clean.
Nice.
Which nowadays that's a wild start, because
computer does it all.
Everything's computer,
exactly.
And everything's got between two songs. Most of the time, there's some kind of little
bumper or something.
Bumper in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
but we had fun. Wouldn't you leave the room at the end of the show and say, that was, you had the sense of satisfaction that it went smoothly and that you didn't make too many mistakes. You didn't play a 45 at 33 and a third RPM and stuff like that,
Yeah. Well, you know what happened to me one night? I was playing, I forgot what song it was. It was a long song, like a 7-minute song or something.
Okay.
And they used to have the turntables on one shelf, and then up above them a little bit was the reel-to-reel tape recorders that we taped the phone calls on, and that.
Right.
And the one didn't have a very, the rubber things that held the reel
stopper
on.
to keep the reel on. Yeah.
Well, I guess there wasn't very good. And I'm playing a song and I'm recording a phone call or something, and the reel came. I hear something. You're listening to the phone call, so I'm not really listening to the music.
Sure, yeah.
But out of the corner of my eye, I caught movement over on that side. And I looked over, and the reel had come off, and it banged onto the record.
Sure.
And, of course, knocked the tone arm off.
Sure,
oh, my God. So I switched everything back quick so I could hear what was on air, which was not anything at the moment. And I just picked up. I didn't say anything on air or anything. I just picked up the tone arm, dropped it where I thought it might have been in the song, and started the record back up.
Every once in a while, somebody will put a picture of a studio on Facebook, if you belong to any of those groups that, follow radio over the years. And every time I would see that above the turntables was like the cart machines or the cart rack, I'd go, who designed this studio? Because all you had to do is drop something anywhere near a turntable and that, it was going to skip, Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. I hadn't heard that one before, though. The reel coming off while you're playing, and it hits. Oh, that's wild. That's great.
Yep.
But man, I'll tell you, the way you backed into this is just, it's such a great story, and especially, since it lasted for so many years. Tell us a little bit more about when you were still doing Vito. Well, actually, while you're doing the Saturday night, you're still calling in on Monday through Friday, right?
Yeah, I was doing. Oh, yeah, I did that.
Sure.
I did that all along up until, and I don't want to really get into this part yet.
Okay.
Until I went to TV for a while.
Yes, yeah, definitely. We're going to get there. Absolutely. So,
I did both. So I was calling in the morning, doing Saturday night.
Cool.
And of course, TV came along. But back to where I told you, not only did I get a raise, I eventually got in trouble because I was running things myself.
Okay.
Because you know how the radio was, playlist, right?
Oh, yeah.
There was a paper playlist. This is what you're going to play on Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I look at it and I was like, I don't like this. I don't think people want to hear this crap. I started playing, different things that I wanted to play. I was bringing in my own records that they didn't have there and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, Ed Levine had been down a baseball game, I guess, down in New York City.
Okay.
I heard this from I can't remember who it was. One of the salespeople was his friend. And this person told me this part of the story. And it was a Saturday night and they were driving back from New York. And Ed turned the radio on, and I don't know how far down, if he was down by Poughkeepsie or where he was, but the station came in, and it was like, I don't know, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and I was going to go on air at 7. So the guy told me Ed's in the car, he's all happy and beaming, saying, I can't believe I'm the program director and operations manager for this station, and listen, it's coming in way down here and all that. And he was all smiles and happy. And then the guy said, and then you came on at 7 o'clock. And he says, you played the song, and then Ed stopped smiling quite as much. And then another song, and then he stopped smiling even more.
Yeah.
And then I can pick up the story from them. They got to the station, and he came up the stairs.
Oh, boy.
And I see him, and he comes into the studio, and he goes, Vito. And I go, yeah. He goes, I thought I had this, and this to play on the playlist at 7 p.m. hour. And I go, I picked up the playlist, and I looked in it, and I go, yeah, you did. He goes, well, I didn't hear it. I go, well, I didn't play it. And he goes, I want to see you in my office on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, okay. So I thought, okay, this is the end of this. I'm going to get fired, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Wednesday I go in. Little did I know, I think it was Tuesday, ratings had come out. And there was Arbitron. And back then there was also Birch.
Okay.
And I don't remember the exact numbers. I think Pix had like an 11 something in Arbitron, which back then was, they were number one. They were good. Yeah. And Birch, I think, was like 22, 25, something like that.
Nice. Yeah.
And he sits there and he goes, I was going to fire you this morning. He says, but the ratings came out.
Jeez.
And he told me what the ratings for the station was. And then he goes, you got like a 14.7 or something in the Arbitron.
Mm.
And you got like a 42 on the Birch.
Jeez.
He goes, just keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, my God. I'll tell you.
But be careful, he goes.
Yeah.
So I looked at him and I go, So can I have a raise then if I'm doing that
Oh,
good?
gee.
And he goes, get the hell out of here. I was going to fire you. You're lucky you got your job.
That's a panic. Boy, that took balls. I'll tell you, Gary.
Well, all I had to lose was, $20, $30.
True. Absolutely. That is a great story. That's terrific stuff. Now, you understand that hardly ever happens. If the ratings hadn't come out until a week later, who knows what would have happened to you,
We wouldn't be talking today,
We
probably.
might not be. Absolutely. Yeah. Isn't that wild? Well, again, you were probably just so different that it, from what the rest of the station was doing, people were tuning in saying, well, we don't know what he's going to do next, and there you go.
I told you in the beginning here how much I love music.
Yeah.
How much I listen to music all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
And I knew, I'd listen, I'd say, well, okay, that's a good song. But geez, on that album, they got this song.
Mm-hmm.
And that song's really good.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'd play stuff off an album, and then maybe 2 months later, that'd come out as a single. Or something,
yep.
And be the hit.
You're picking the hits. Yep.
I had already been playing it on the radio for like 2 months.
Exactly. Yeah, that's happened to me only a couple of times in my life, but sometimes I'd play an album, I'd say that's got to be, the next single. And
I always had a theory with that as long as there's a flow in the music, you can keep the listener listening.
Yeah.
You can keep them interested.
Right.
I could play The Doors, which was something that they did play on picks.
Okay.
The Doors, I could go into The Cure, which was something they didn't play in picks.
Mm-hmm.
But, they're similar, dark and moody kind of music.
Yep.
You're not like punching the listener in the face. If you went from The Doors to, I don't know, Sushi and the Banshees or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That's literally like, what the hell is this?
Well, now you've reminded me of one of my favorite stories. I had a great program director when I was 16 and 17 years old and started in this business. Don DeRosa was his name. Started out at PTR and wound up programming WSNY in Schenectady in the late 60s, early 70s. And he was a great PD because he never would comment on the show while you were in the show. He would not stop in and say, yeah, you could have done that better, or don't do that again, or whatever. Always waited until after the show was over. Well, one Sunday afternoon, I'm on the radio, and he's out in Central Park in Schenectady, and every transistor radio hanging from a tree there has got WSNY on, and he's just thrilled. He's beaming. This is another one of your Ed Levine. He's smiling. Everything's going great. And all of a sudden, I go from playing Dionne Warwick, and I remember the exact song. It was called Hot Smoke and Sassafras by Bubble Puppy, okay?
Yeah,
and you remember that one? Oh, great song. But you don't play it coming out of a, Dionne Warwick song, And all of a sudden...
the way...
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And all of a sudden, everybody gets up and changes their radio stations. And boy, he found the nearest payphone and he ripped me a new one on the phone. Yeah.
I probably would have too.
Well, I was young. I wasn't paying attention. Yeah, you would have. I was young. I wasn't paying attention to the flow. And that's what you mentioned earlier. There are ways that you can get to that song, but you don't, make that jump,
Yeah, you gotta weave and.
Yeah, exactly. God, I remember that like it was yesterday. And I have now found a copy of that, and I've got it in the car so I can play it every once in a while and remind me of the good old days.
Yeah, I love that song. That's a good song.
That's a good one, yeah. So you survived, a near miss there. That's cool. And life continues.
What happened next, I think what my big breakthrough with Mason and Sheehan happened. This is kind of funny, especially there's a little side story with it that goes well with Liz Bishop just recently retired.
Yeah.
I started doing wrestling was a big thing back then at that time.
Mm-hmm.
The first WrestleMania was coming up. Cyndi Lauper was getting involved, all that stuff.
Right.
So I did some skits where Uncle Vito bought a wrestler. My friend that worked with me at the hospital at the time, his last name was Flansburgh, and he was a big wrestling fanatic.
Okay.
So I named my wrestler Fracture Flansburgh. And I'm doing all this. The wrestler was kind of a goofball and hitting his own head into the turnbuckle, doing this and that. So I'm doing these skits. Well, Bob took it a step further and saw something in it, and he called the WWF and told them what, we were doing these skits and stuff with that. And they liked the idea of the cross promotion.
Okay.
So they sent us, we had a Breakfast Club coming up, and they sent this wrestler, Big John Studd, to come to the Breakfast Club.
Okay.
And Big John Studd, we actually all became good friends with him.
Yeah.
He had a thing going where he was going to fight Andre the Giant.
Oh.
At the WrestleMania 1.
Okay.
And he had cut a bunch of Andre the Giant's hair off. And he was putting them in baggies and going here and there and giving out the Andre the Giant hair to, other wrestlers. When he'd do an interview on TV, he'd give somebody a bag of hair. Here, this is from Andre the Giant.
Okay, yeah.
So he's coming to the Breakfast Club, and I know it, and I'm thinking, I wonder if he's going to give them guys some of that hair. Well, back then, I didn't grow my Uncle Vito mustache because I was only doing it part-time stuff and that.
Sure.
Making appearances part-time. And I went to the costumer and bought like theatrical hair, and you bought like a braid of it. I would make a little pencil thin mustache and put it on for when I went out as Vito.
Okay.
So I thought, I wonder if he's going to bring the hair. So I went and got a baggie and I put a bunch of that hair in there. And I says, just in case he don't bring it.
Yeah.
So he showed up, and I asked him when he got there, did you bring any of the hair to present to the guys? And he goes, no. I go, well, here. And I handed him the bag with the hair in it. I go, you can give him this and that. So he did.
Yeah.
He went, he gave that to here's hair from the head of Andre the Giant to them.
Yeah.
So later on, Liz Bishop, the news stations had been there because this was a big deal with John Studd there and WrestleMania coming up and all that.
Yeah.
So later I'm watching the news when I'm home at night, 6:00 news, and there's Liz, and she's doing a report on the Breakfast Club, and she holds up the baggie with the hair in it.
Oh, geez.
And she goes like, and I got a bag of hair from the head of Andre the Giant. And I looked at my wife and I go, she ain't got a bag of hair from the head of the Giant. She got a bag of hair that came from our bathroom.
Oh, God, that's crazy.
I think that kind of catapulted Vito with them. I started doing more and more and more. Then Bob invited me to go to Disney World with them. They did a broadcast from Disney World. And I went down there, and of course, more trouble ensued.
Oh, boy.
I've been banned from there for life.
From Disney World?
Well, that's what they told us. So the first morning broadcast there, they were setting up and everything, and we're in there, we're going on air at 6 a.m. So we're in the park like at 5. It was surreal because there's nobody else there.
Yeah.
Walking around Disney World with nobody there.
That's very weird.
And I walked over by the castle there, the Magic Kingdom castle, and there's all these bushes that are, I forgot what the correct name for them, but they're carved out in characters like Mickey Mouse and Goofy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm imbibing a little bit in some smoke at the time. So I come back and they're on the air, and a lady from Disney's there and this and that. And it comes my time to talk on the air. And Bob goes, so you were taking a walk around. What were you doing, Vito? And, did you see anything interesting? I go, oh, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff here to see. I says, I saw something I never thought I'd see. And he goes, really? What'd you see? I go, I saw over by the Magic Kingdom castle, I saw Mary Poppins bush.
Oh.
Come on, and the lady got bad.
Oh, no. Oh, boy.
She's like, after it, well, it's a family thing and blah, blah, blah. And that ain't why I was banned for life, though. We all got banned. They were following us around after that, watching what we were doing in that. Bob made the error when we got there. They gave each of us a Mickey Mouse credit card.
Okay.
And they said, here, you get your meals and get whatever you want.
Nice.
You just show this and it's paid for. Well, Bob was like, it was the first time he'd ever done anything like that. So he takes me and Bill aside and he goes, you guys don't use yours. I'll use mine. He says, I don't want to go overboard with things and, upset anybody.
Sure.
So he's using his for all kinds of stuff. And he wasn't aware of the fact that, like, when you went out to eat, they were already adding the 15% tip on.
Oh, okay.
For, like, if you got $100 worth of food, they already put the 15 in, so you're 150. So he's adding another 20% every time he got something.
Oh, yeah.
So some waiters like getting $35 tip, for 100. Yeah. So one night I know we went out, and the bill came to like $400 and some dollars. We were getting bottles of Dom Perignon, and all kinds of stuff like that, and crab legs. And so we were walking around a couple days later at, I think it was Epic Center there, where all the world stuff is.
Epcot Center. Yep.
Yeah, and we're going to go in this German beer drinking place and sit down and have a beer. So we sit down, and Bob, again, he's going to pay for it, and he gives the guy the card and 15%, and then guy comes back out and he goes, "Can you come with me and go in the back room?" And he took Bob with him in the back room. I guess they gave him hell, told him, you're tipping all these people 35%. He came back to the table. That's the only time I ever seen. He actually cried.
Oh,
because he was upset that he goes, "There I am here doing all this."
Exactly. He wants to give 20.
I'm trying to be good.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. Well, it was nice of him to want to give the 20% and had no idea that the 15 was already on there. So, oh man, it's too bad.
That added to me saying about Mary Poppins, and
oh boy.
And then came the day we were in the hotel room, the three of us, and we called up. We wanted some champagne or something to drink or something, and the kid brought it up. Instead of tipping him, I guess they gave him a couple drinks, and
oh boy,
and let him imbibe a little bit with us. And the kid never went back. A little while later, they called up and, "Hey, have you seen? Is the guy still there?" "No, he left. He left about an hour ago." Well, they couldn't find him or whatever. So anyway, when we got back from it, and Bob Osfeld, the GM, told us. He said, "You guys did a good job down there. It was a good broadcast, but
oh boy,
you've been banned from there for life." They told us don't ever send you back down again, you three.
Well, you're on a very short list, I'm sure, but your claim to fame.
Yep.
So it goes from Mason and Nash to Mason and Sheehan, and didn't it go back and forth? I don't know. I forget the whole chronological.
Went, for a while, then Bill at one point got upset about something, and he left again. And
right.
Then it was with Nash again for a while, and then Nash didn't want to do it, and then it was Mason and Friends in the morning, and
gotcha.
I was doing a little more, and at the time, I think Bob was upset with Bill because of the way he quit. He didn't say nothing to Bob. He quit after a Lake George Breakfast Club.
Oh man!
And he I remember riding back from Lake George, I think in a limo with just Bill. I think Bob either stayed there or something, and Bill told me. Anyway, I kept up the friendship with Bill.
Well, that's nice.
And I was kind of an intermediary with Bill and Bob.
Good.
With Bill and Ed Levine, I mean.
Oh, okay.
And Ed was trying to get Bill back, and I was going and talking to Bill, and then I'd go back and talk to Ed. And in the meantime, there was another remote broadcast being planned to go to Germany, and I was part of the Mason and Friends morning, so I was going to go to that. I went down to Sun's Tavern and met Bob. We were going to go over and get my passport.
Okay.
And Bob came in and he goes, "I got good news and bad news." And I go, "What's that?" He goes, "The good news is Sheehan's coming back." I go, "Oh, great." I said, I've been talking to him and Ed, and I said, "I'm glad that's coming about." He goes, "The bad news is we need that trip for Bill." So I didn't get to go to Germany.
Didn't get to go. Yeah.
I screwed myself out of Germany.
Yeah. You got a passport out of it. That's about it, Yeah.
No, I didn't. No, I never got the passport.
Oh, you never did even get that?
We didn't need to go get it.
Oh, I gotcha.
I think I got a beer or something for it. But I got a beer stein that I'm To be honest, I'm looking at it right now. It's in my den in the cabinet. They brought me back from Germany.
Well,
So that's
that's
what I
nice.
got.
They were thinking about you anyway.
Oh,
Yeah. That's cool. We could go on and on with these stories, because you were there with them for so long, and one of the constants, compared to, how people changed and came and went,
Yeah.
yeah.
The next story, I think it was the last broadcast I went with them. We went to Washington, D.C. for Bill Clinton's inauguration.
Whoa.
That was really a highlight for me. That
Had
was
to
great.
be. Yeah.
I love that. I don't know, security wasn't that great back then. I remember the day of the inauguration, people were going through a gate and they were checking all their stuff and this and that. And I go to Bob and Bill. I looked over and I see this other area where like they ain't really looking good. And I go, come on, let's go over here. And we went through the gate and nobody like really checked anything good on us.
Yeah.
I ended up in a seat. I mean, I still was a good distance away from where the president was at the time getting inaugurated. I was sitting in a seat. Behind me was Michael Keaton.
Oh, my Lord.
And then, like, maybe down the row, a few seats from me was Jack Lemmon.
Wow.
So,
not too bad company.
We weren't supposed to be there.
Sure, but you're in good company. Wow. Yeah.
So the highlight of that trip, for me anyway, was the day of the ball. We didn't have tickets to the balls. I don't know if Bob and Bill did. I know I didn't. And I was there with Coach Campbell, Fred Campbell, and Harry Roberts that did traffic.
Okay.
So the three of us were kind of hanging around together. We were somewhere in the morning, earlier in the day, and we met the mayor of Rome, New York.
Huh.
We said to him, hey, we're doing this broadcast from over at this hotel. And, in the mornings with the radio station up and up. And we invited him. Why don't you come on over? I'm sure Bob would like to have you on the broadcast.
Yeah.
So he says, yeah, I'll come over. So that night we're in a cab looking for something to do while everybody's at the balls. So we asked the cab driver, where's a good place to go? And he says, you should go to the Dubliner.
Okay.
And we're like, yeah, why? Well, he says, all the big shots like to go there. Senators will go there for lunch and this and that, and congressmen go there. Okay, take us there. We'll go there.
Yeah.
So we went there and they had a band on stage playing. And within minutes, we were up on a stage with the band and singing with them and telling them what to play and stuff like that. Then we were down on the floor. And they started playing, I believe, God Bless America.
Oh, boy.
So everybody was like arm in arm. And I'm next to Coach and Harry. And then there's some other older guy and his wife and people there. They're hanging on to us. And we get done with the song and we went up to the bar to get drinks. I remember I got a screwdriver. Coach got his drink first and he's headed back. And Harry and I see him. He's over by this table, and this guy's wife that had been holding on to us singing has him by the hand. And we walk over, and she's propositioning him.
Oh, my God.
So we're like, okay, let's get away from here. So Harry and I walked over out of the way. We seen the husband. We went over to kind of ward off the husband. We didn't think he should go over right at that moment.
Yeah.
And we knew Coach was trying to get away from her, but she had a hold of his hand and wouldn't let go.
Yeah.
So we get by the husband, and the husband's going, look at your effing buddy over there. And the husband's all drunk, slurring, and he thinks he's going to do this with my wife. And he's calling Coach all kinds of names.
Oh, no.
And I didn't like it. One thing, I'm very loyal to my friends.
Good.
So he's standing next to me, and I look over, and I got my full glass of screwdriver in my hand, and his kind of pockets bulging out from his tux.
Okay.
So I just put my hand down, talking to him, and I'm not looking, and I just poured the whole glass of screwdriver in his tux pocket. Okay. So then Coach finally got away and came over, and that was the end of that. Then I was up by the dance floor, and it was crowded. And this older fella's dancing, and he's banging into me.
Oh,
And
boy. Oh, boy.
I'm not saying nothing because it's crowded. There was nowhere to go.
Sure.
Well, he didn't like it.
Oh.
He starts yelling at me and this and that. So I told him basically to screw off and go do whatever you want to do. I go, what the hell do you want me to do? I go, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And we got in a little argument, but just words.
Yeah, that's good.
And then later there was a guy in a wheelchair or something, and I look over and Harry's rubbing his head and this and that. And I'm like, what the hell's he doing to that guy? So next morning, we go on with Bob in the morning over at the hotel, and the Mayor of Rome comes in. He's on the air with Bob, and they're talking. And Bob, he likes to play big shot. Bill and I went here, and we got into this ball and this and that. And the mayor finally says to him, he says, I don't care where you were. He says, if you weren't with Uncle Vito, you weren't anywhere. Bob looks at him and he goes, what? And he goes, well, he says, I was at the Dubliner and I'd met them earlier in the day and we didn't know he was there. He goes, I seen Vito. He poured his drink in the pocket of the senator.
Oh, jeez.
That was Bob Packwood.
Oh, my God, the senator.
Yeah, he ended up getting kicked out of Senate because he was, sexually harassing women or something.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And he goes, and then he was up by the dance floor and he got in an argument with the Supreme Court justice who swore in Al Gore earlier that day. And he says, and Harry Roberts was rubbing the head of the only man that won 2 congressional medals of honor.
Oh, jeez.
And sure enough, I did look. I says, oh, yeah, that was Bob Packwood. I looked it up.
Yeah.
And then I was watching the news and they had recaps of the, swearing ins. And sure enough, the old guy was the Supreme Court. I can't remember his name now. So,
Gary, I'll tell you, I trust you've backed off a little bit on the screwdrivers since these occasions.
I don't partake in anything anymore.
Okay. All right. Well, that's probably a smart way to go. But boy, there's a couple of close calls there, and it's probably because
get arrested.
Well, that's just it, and it's probably because these guys were where they were in position wise that they decided it's not worth throwing a punch or getting you tossed out or whatever, But
like I said, Packwood was 3 sheets to the wind anyway. I think the Supreme Court justice was too. Everybody was there. It was inauguration day and everybody was drinking and having fun.
God, so crazy.
Otherwise,
crazy
if they'd have been
stuff.
sober, there'd have probably been trouble.
Yeah. Good for you. Well, boy, you've got great stories and great memories of these days together when Pix was ruling the airwaves. Absolutely. Yeah. So tell me, can we segue now into your stellar TV career?
Danger.
When I told my son that I was going to be, interviewing you, he goes, "Oh, Ranger Danger," and of course he was at the age where he was watching you,
Yeah.
And so I had forgotten it completely, to be very honest with you, Gary. But tell us how it came about.
So Bob and Bill had done some TV specials with WXXA.
Yeah.
In the past.
Mm-hmm.
And they also did a show called Rock 10 on Channel 10.
Oh, I don't remember that.
It had been on Saturday nights. They put it up against Saturday Night Live. So it was on Saturday nights. And I was on that show. I was a part of that show. We did Uncle Vito's home video.
Okay.
The first couple of home videos, they said, okay, you're going to go out and interview. I went out. I think the first one was I went out and interviewed people standing in line waiting for tickets for the Who. They were doing that show up in Glens Falls Civic Center to kick off their, I think, 25th anniversary tour.
I was there for that. Yeah, what a great night.
I'm interviewing these people. After a while, I was like, just give me a cameraman and then I'm going to do my own stuff. And I went out and I did some fun things. It was that year, I think, was my 20th class reunion. I took a camera crew there and we went around the class reunion and filmed them, and so that went on. And then I did another one with Louis the Twit, was one of the characters I made up in. I had my friend play the part of Louis the Twit.
Okay,
it was just funny stuff. So anyway, the WXXA was sending Bob and Bill down to Graceland.
Okay.
Going to Graceland was going to be the name of the show, sponsored by Armory Garage. Don Metzner was going, the owner of that.
Nice.
And they approached me and said they wanted me to go. I guess originally, and I don't want to slight them, but they said to Bob, we want you to go, but we want you to take Uncle Vito instead of Bill.
Ooh.
And Bob is another one that's loyal.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, no, Bill goes where I go.
Yeah.
And what they told me was, they go, he laughs a lot, man, but he doesn't really want to do this or that. He goes, you're funny. We go, we'd like you to go with us. So I said, yeah, I'll go and I'll do it. So Bob and Bill flew down, I guess they had whatever together. And I rode in an RV down with a crew from WXXA.
Okay.
We got down there. I think Bill was a little bit upset because they kept miking me up and not him.
Oh, boy.
They only had 2 mics.
Mm-hmm.
But they were right. He wouldn't do things. We were out, I remember one night, and there was this old fella that would get up on stage. He had his claim to fame was he had a fringe jacket that Elvis gave to him.
Okay.
And he'd sit on the side, and there was, down the end of the street was like a stage, and he'd get up there with the band and dance and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so they wanted Bill to get up and dance with the guy, and he didn't want to do it. So they go, will you do it? And I go, yeah, what the hell? I don't care.
Sure, yeah.
I go, nobody down here knows me. I don't care if I look like a jerk dancing on the stage. So I did it. So anyway, I did all the stuff there and filmed that special with him. And on the way back in the RV, the producer, Tim Pennings, says to me, you really did a lot of good stuff. He says, we got to find something for you to do at the TV station. We'd like to get you in at the TV station. Would you be interested? I said, yeah. I'd love to do something like that. Never heard nothing for 2 years.
Wow.
Came home one day. I went to a friend's funeral. Came home, and I'm sitting on the couch kind of reflecting, the guy was my age and this and that.
Yeah.
The phone rings, and it's Tim. Hey, would you be interested in being a host for kids' cartoons and that on the station? And I go, yeah. He goes, okay, we're having a meeting next Tuesday or something.
Yeah.
Can you be here at whatever time? I go, yeah, I'll be down. So I went down, and it was explained to me back then on cable. There was Channel 3 was out of Boston.
Okay.
And then there was, I forget what channel. I don't think XXA was on whatever channel it is now, but they were on some other channel.
Okay.
And the programming for kids was exactly the same on both channels at the same time. So, if the kids wanted to watch Power Rangers at, say, 9 a.m. in the morning, it was on this Channel 3 out of Boston, and the same exact thing was on WXXA.
Okay.
So they didn't want kids tuning in. They wanted kids to tune in to watch Power Rangers naturally on their station, not the Boston station.
Yeah.
So they explained to me, that's where you come in. We want to do something to, draw the kids over here. And we thought if we had somebody like hosting kind of things, that would make them, they'd tune in to see that. And instead, plus they're not going to get it over on the Boston station.
Right.
So we sat there, and they go, well, what are you going to be? You got to be some kind of, going to be something like the old Skipper or Glendora 6,
yeah,
something
right,
like that.
Right, yeah.
For those that are old enough to remember
those good old days, yeah.
We kicked some things around and, superhero and this and that. And then somebody brought up the fact of Yogi Bear and the Ranger, Mr. Ranger fella. And yeah, let's make him a Ranger. And then what's his name going to be? And I don't remember who said Ranger Danger or whatever, but I don't know if it was, I'd like to think it was me, but it might not have been.
Don't remember, yeah.
But then we're like, well, what's Ranger Danger going to be? What's he going to look like? What did I, So I said to them, I looked at him and I go, give me $100 out of your petty cash. And I said, and I'll come back next week and I'll show you what Ranger Danger is.
Nice.
And they go, okay. They gave me the $100. I went home. I went to Walmart, and I bought the tan work outfit, shirt and pants. And I got this little iron-on thing that you could write on with a marker pen. And I stenciled danger on that and put it over the pocket, and a little iron-on applique of an eagle over the top of that.
Wow.
I had a black necktie.
Good for you.
I went to the Army and Navy store and got the hat, which I still have one here in my den.
Nice.
I went back the next week and walked in, and I told him, "Here's Ranger Danger."
Wow.
And I started talking in the Ranger Danger voice and stuff. And okay, that's good. Let's go out and film some skits. So we would go out. Everything was ad-libbed.
Nice.
Everything was there was never a script or nothing. We'd go out. I remember that we went out the first day and did like 3 things. One was down by the Albany bike path or something we did. And then we went out. They had created a dummy. One guy's wife made up a big doll like me and dressed it the same as me with clothes.
Yeah.
And the dummy got run over by a bike. And then another one was I was up in a tree and looking at ducks or something, and Tim was very good on movies. He knew movies inside and out.
Nice.
Scenes from movies, and he would cut to the scene where these guys were shooting at the ducks, and then the dummy flew out of the tree. Supposedly that was me, and hit the ground. And so we took him back and showed him to the station manager, Will Miles, and he liked it. And he gave the green light and said,
Good.
"Yeah, go ahead.
Excellent.
Make more of these things."
Yeah. Wow.
Hey there, Rangeroos. You know, I like to relax with a nice barbecue sometimes. What say we go on over to the grill and gas it up and light the match to it? Come on. Barbecue. Oh, yeah.
Ranger Danger, coming soon to the Fox 23 Kids Club.
How long did that go on? How long did you do that for?
Went on for 3.5 years.
Nice, yeah.
I actually became like the producer of it. I would go out and film, I think, twice a week, these things. But in the meantime, I was setting up a lot of the shots, where we were going to shoot. I'd call places, and after people started seeing them on TV, then they were calling me.
Come to our
hey,
place.
Can you come over and can you come over to our pet store and film? And because they'd want it'd be like free commercials.
Sure.
So
yeah.
One of the other things I did at that time, I knew I didn't have a show. So it was difficult for me. I wanted to make myself valuable to the TV station.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm not really, in a way I'm bringing in revenue because people are tuning in.
True.
But in a way, I don't have any way to prove it. It's not like with radio where I can say, well, look at my Arbitron.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was getting requests. Can you come here? Can you come see the kids at the school? And I was like, what the hell am I going to do? Go there and hit myself in the head with a hammer?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, it's all slapstick.
I put together a couple programs.
Okay.
And I put together a reading program.
Wow.
And I got this book called The Stinky Cheese Man. And it was like a funny short story. And I would take that with me, and I would print out copies of the story on colored paper.
Okay.
The Stinky Cheese Man. And also there would be a picture of me and the WXXA logo on the paper.
Wow.
And I'd go into the school and I'd hand that out to the kids, the paper, so they could read along. And I'd sit up front and read the story, and I'd autograph the papers after. And, I'd tell the kids, I'd give them a little speech on the importance of learning to read and all this, that.
Nice.
So that was one program. And then I got together with a friend of mine who was a DARE officer, and we put together a stranger safety program.
Nice. Very nice.
And I did the same thing. I had 10 different things to do, if you encounter a stranger, and had that on a sheet and handed that out. And then I'd get up front of the room and talk about it and answer questions and sign autographs. So in that way, and they loved it. The station loved it. They said, well, we have to meet these public service requirements.
Sure. Yeah.
And you're doing that for us. So
nice. Good for you, Gary.
That went on well until they got bought, irony by Cheap Channel. Or should I say Clear Channel? I always refer to them as Cheap Channel.
Yeah.
When I talked about them on air or anywhere. But they came in, and money was their big thing.
Sure.
And they looked at it and they looked at it and like, what the hell are we paying this guy all this money for?
Yeah.
And it wasn't a lot, but it was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was pretty good change.
Sure.
But what are we paying this guy for? So I got called into the GM's office the one morning. I had been working as an independent contractor.
Okay.
I also had put together with Tim Pennings and a lawyer that I don't even remember his name now. We put together a group. We had been approached by King Syndicate. And we were supposed to have a meeting down in New York City. They were interested in either making videos or doing a show or something with the character. They saw, in King Syndicate, they were the ones that were doing Oprah's show and all that kind of stuff. So, I was like, okay, this is going national. I was all excited. Well, Clear Channel came in and bought WXXA. The guy that owned WXXA had 2 stations, one in Detroit, one in Albany. The Detroit one, I guess, was bleeding money, so nobody wanted to buy that. He owed a lot of money.
Yeah.
So he ended up selling the Albany station. Well, they looked at it, what I was doing, and they said, this guy's not doing, what's he bringing in money? We're paying him this. And, they didn't see the value in it.
Yep.
So they offered me a contract. They wanted me to sign a contract, and they offered me $50. No, not $50. Yeah, something like that. I don't know, $200 a week was the contract. And I couldn't work where the 50 came in. I couldn't work radio or TV anywhere within a 50-mile radius. And I go, $200. I go, I living off of this. I go, I got 2 kids in college. I can't.
Yeah.
And I can't do no other jobs.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, well, bye. And that's what they wanted.
I think so. Yeah.
So I said to the guy that morning, I says, that's fine. But I says, I don't want to see Ranger Danger on the air tomorrow.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
And he goes, well, you can't tell us that. I said, well, I just did. And he goes, well, we're going to do what we want. I says, that's fine. Now, at the time, they were over on Central Avenue, but next to Orange Motors.
Yep, I remember, yeah.
I says, that's fine. I says, you show that on TV tomorrow. And I says, if I see it, I says, I'll be down here at noon when traffic's busy. And I'll be out front in the Ranger outfit. And I said, when the traffic starts going by, I'm going to turn around, drop my drawers, and shine the moon. And I says, on one cheek will be written ah, and on the other cheek will be written yah. And he looked at me and he goes, well, we'll have you arrested. I go, even better, because then your kitty host will really be good when that hits the newspapers.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't on
the next day. Yeah. Good for you.
The next day, it was completely off the air.
It was gone. Yeah. You stood your ground. Good for you.
Yeah. But they ruined the
sure.
They ruined the thing with King Syndicate.
Bummer.
Because Tim was nervous because he was still working there.
Sure.
And I guess he told the manager about it.
Yeah. And
he reported it to the higher ups, and they came back at me and said I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I said, I can. They claimed they owned it. And I said, you don't own it. I own it. It was my creation. I created the character. I was an independent contractor.
Yeah.
I says, it's the old story like Superman with Jerry Siegel.
Yeah.
I said, you don't own it. But they took me to court and they started all, and I was just little Gary Locatelli. I didn't have money to fight Clear Channel, so that ended that.
That's
saga.
Too bad. Welcome to showbiz.
But I had radio to fall and Uncle Vito.
Exactly. And the radio continued for quite a while. When did you finally retire from Pix?
10 years ago, I think.
Wow, is it really that long, Gary? Oh my Lord!
It kind of shocked me to think about
it.
And the funny thing is, people still. I had a guy one day tell me he still listens to me. I don't know where the hell he listens to me, but I've actually, they hear my voice. They still recognize it.
Sure.
I was out walking my dog one day, and this guy, he stopped me. He was mowing a lawn up the street. He had a lawn mowing service. He stopped me and I want to shake your hand. I said, I want to thank you for all the years of enjoyment you gave me.
Wow.
all this and that. And, it's really that was what it was all about.
Yeah, well, I'd like to know who out there sounds like me, because I'm getting the same thing. I haven't been on public TV in over 20 years, and I still get people saying, I hear your voice over there now and again. And now it's certainly possible. I don't watch every minute of the day, but I tend to doubt it. And then somebody will say, well, I've heard you do commercials, in the last couple of years. Well, I've been gone from No Heart for 5 years now. So, I mean, I suppose, again, my voice might still be on GY somewhere. Who knows? But the people have a nice long memory, and it's great that they remember you, and that they're thanking you. Yeah, they should be.
Yeah. And like I said, that's what it was all about. I enjoyed sharing music, something I loved. I enjoyed sharing it with other people. I still do.
Yeah,
I still love to, somebody comes over to the house. I still love sharing it, or one with my wife or the kids or somebody, or on Facebook if I can share something. I like.
Cool.
I enjoy that. I enjoy putting a smile on somebody's face.
Yeah. So, what are you doing these days to keep busy? I know you're still involved.
I don't do a lot with radio or that anymore.
Right.
I've been offered things, and I just. You know what? I like retirement.
I've you and me both. Yeah.
I've been offered radio gigs,
and
I'm like, nah. I like to get up in the morning and do what I want to do.
Sure.
I don't want to have to be somewhere and do something. And even, I've been told, like, and you can do it, which you do stuff from home, and I could do it from here.
Yeah.
And I don't want to. For a while, until the pandemic hit, I got really involved with our senior center in town.
Nice.
And I ended up becoming the president of it. And I kind of turned it into I believe in giving back to my community.
Good.
So I started doing a lot of fundraisers, and, we donated money to the sheriff's, the Fulton County Sheriff's Office for their dog program. And,
nice.
And I donated money for but we raised money and donated it for the Citizens Band that plays in the park on Fridays.
Cool.
And we did a lot of things like that. And then the pandemic hit, and I think it hit me longer than other people, because my wife is very bad asthmatic. And even when others started going out and that, we still had to be careful. And, and to this day, we still don't go a lot of places.
Yeah, we miss you at the Louis lunch, because you did come once or twice, and we enjoyed your company, but we understand that you're trying to be careful, but hopefully you'll be able to we're doing another one here.
You know what? I think I'd like to make maybe the next one or something.
Okay, good.
I miss not being there and seeing it.
Yeah, you'll be getting an invite very soon. You get them all the time, and we'd love to have you join us. We have a good group of like 15 to 20 now that's regular, and we have a good time.
So anyway, when that stopped, during the pandemic, I got into watching videos on TV. I started watching, like, you can see live cameras of deer in different places, and I enjoyed that, and I was watching that. And then I started watching they have bird feeders on camera. So I started watching those, and I got interested. My daughter ended up buying me this bird feeder, and I put that, and I always had one out in front of the front window anyway.
Yeah.
And I put it out there in the camera, and I just loved the thing.
Well, excellent.
And I started putting the bird videos on Facebook. On this, BirdFi has their own group.
Okay.
That you can join in the private group, and you can put. So I started putting these in. Of course, my creativeness. I started editing the videos and putting different things. I started putting hats on the birds and some stuff like that. Well, they liked what I was doing, and they contact me and go like, "Hey, we like your stuff. Can we use some of your stuff in our advertising and that?"
Wow.
And do you want one of these feeders? And I was like, looking at it, and I go like, "Wow, that's a $300 feeder." I go, "Yeah, okay, we're going to send you that." And
nice.
They've sent me, I'll bet you, about $2,000 to $3,000 worth of stuff.
Isn't that nice? Yeah.
Yeah. And they've. I was supposed to go with them out to the big electronics show in Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah, CES,
last January.
Yeah.
They had my room all set for me and air flight. And then, of course, what happened with my son-in-law, I wasn't able to go.
Oh, okay.
I write a blog article for them.
Nice.
So I do that. And I think I got about 6 or 7 bird cameras around the house now. And I'm doing that and helping them, and I enjoy it.
Good. Yeah.
So people seem to enjoy seeing them. So again, I'm sharing something with people that,
yes,
it's putting a smile on their face.
Yeah. And that's what these podcasts were designed to do as well. Not just to capture the history, of Capital Region broadcasting, but, tell our stories about really all we wanted to do was entertain people. We wanted to make them smile. And I was taught early on that radio listening, especially when you're listening to your favorite station with your favorite music, was meant to be an uplifting experience. So, 99 times out of 100, things I would say would lift you up, would, make you feel better about your day or whatever. And that's what we did. Yeah.
Yep. I always used to say I was there to enlighten and entertain.
There you
I
go.
entertained, and I also tried to inform people of things. I didn't want to tell people how to do, if it was something political or something.
Yeah.
I didn't want to lean one way or the other on the air, even though I do in real life. But I would inform them and with something in the form of a joke, and let them, maybe get them to think and make their own decision on what's going on.
Sounds good. Yep. Well, Gary, again, thank you so much for your time this morning. I really appreciate you jumping right in here and doing the gig with me. I have enjoyed these stories tremendously, and a lot of them I had not heard before. And so you really filled in some history of, again, one of the more successful stations in the history of the Northeast, if not the country. They were real trendsetters. Yeah. And best of luck to you in the future, no matter where it takes you. And hopefully we'll see you at a lunch soon.
Thank you for including me in this great project you got going, Warren. I really am honored to be a part of it.
Absolutely my pleasure, sir. Have a good one.
You too.
Radio Split Ranch.
When I first got Gary on the phone, I told him, as I tell everyone I've interviewed, don't look at the clock, just have fun telling your stories, and I'll just edit the conversation wherever necessary. He warned me I like to talk, and I told him I hadn't met a radio personality yet who did not. That's what makes this endeavor so easy and so much fun. Ask a question or two and just let the guest go. Thanks again, Gary. Some of the most entertaining inside radio stories I've heard in a long time. Appreciate it. As I mentioned on the open, Pix 106 was Gary's one and only radio stop in his career, making my next chore so easy this month. Adding his other call letter affiliation with WXXA Television, Channel 23 at the time, we've reached 448 stations worked at by our 44 interviewees so far. Time now to round out our visit with yet another fun trip back in time, at least for me, from the broadcasting career of yours truly, known most of the time as Chris Warren on the radio. I got to spend about 8 years doing Saturday mornings on 99.5 The River in Albany. We're going back to April 25th, 1998 this month. It happened to be the week that Paul McCartney lost his first wife, Linda. And listen for the mention of a multi-level parking garage that never came to be here in the Capital Region. I think you'll find that interesting. Then check us out again next month for some more memories. In the meantime, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
The River, 99.5 WRVE. Don't stop believing. There's Journey going back to 1981. Also, Manfred Mann's Earth Band classic Blinded by the Light. Just 3 shy of 6 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Chris Warren. Thanks for making us the soundtrack of your springtime Saturday morning. Got a good one planned. Supertramp standing by. Loverboy, something from the Sundays in just a little bit. Here's Tom Petty on The River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Teach your children. Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Joe Walsh, life's been good to me so far. And Tom Petty's You Wreck Me, all on The River on a good Saturday morning. A nice one going on. Kids say some of the darndest things. We've got a couple of kids here on Monday through Friday mornings. Tom and Lisa, good, clean fun, all the info you need, a lot of music that you love. Monday morning starting at 5 right here on The River. Got some more rock and roll without the hard edge right now. Here's the Sundays on The River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Mary, next door in the newsroom for our sister station, just came in the studio for a second and said, "Isn't it a little early for Loverboy?" And I said, never. 6:26 in the morning, and we're rocking and rolling with, of course, working for the weekend. We're here. Sundays and summertime in there. Supertramp's Goodbye Stranger as well. We have a Saturday started, and the big news this morning, you may have checked the newspaper, is Crossgate's going to double its size. Going to add some new stores, a hotel, conference center, maybe even some recreational revenues. You know what I'm trying to say. Venues. I can't read my own handwriting this morning. And where will we park? Well, it's going to be a state-of-the-art multi-level parking garage, of course. I'm a little concerned, though. Our studios here are about 1.5 miles from Crossgates. I think I'm going to go out and move my car right now. Still to come this morning, it's a River mini concert weekend. We have Chicago standing by in just a little bit. 3 of their songs, and you'll enjoy it. It's all weekend long here on the River. And we'll check the forecast for you next with Mr. Dillon standing by on the River, 99.5 WRVE.
Today we live.
Well, the WRVE weather, pay no attention to the but the little rain shower that went through here this morning. Now, it's pretty much gone out of here, and we'll get a partly sunny day today. Windy, high around 59. Clear overnight, 33 for the low. Clouds move back in toward morning. Maybe some showers tomorrow, 53 for the high. Right now, cloudy and 50. Another one of those great songs that works at work coming up right here on the River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Free Ride, Edgar Winter Group. Beatles, Get Back, and Dillon, Positively on the radio. It's Rainy Day Women's 12 and 30, numbers 12 and 35. If you're all right. I'll be awake here in a few minutes, and things are going to be great. We're making radio fun again on the River, 99.5 WRVE. In our continuing attempt to put a smile on your face as you awaken this morning, we've got the boss, CCR, Sheryl Crow, and some 38 Special all coming up. The River Mini Concert Weekend kicks off again in just a couple of minutes with one of your favorites. Here's WRVE weather, a partly sunny right now, cloudy and 50 on the River, 99.5 WRVE.
We're call 1-800-I-LOVE-NY.
Natives restless, Kimosabi. I guess we better bring on the band. Here's Chicago on the River Mini Concert Weekend from the River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Is that the way to start your Saturday or what? Chicago and a mini concert with 3 of their greatest, feeling stronger every day. Love Me Tomorrow, and Just You and Me, a River deep cut you just haven't heard in a while. All on the River, 99.5 WRVE. Rock and roll without the hard edge, still to come. Guy's celebrating a birthday today, bassist with one of those swamp rock groups, coming up in just a few minutes. The boss will be here as well, Sheryl Crow. Here's 38 Special on the River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Sheryl Crow, and every day is a winding road. 38 Special caught up in you before that from Special Forces back in 82. The best in the classics, the best new music, and a lot of songs you can't hear anyplace else. The difference here is the music. Here's Bruce and the E Street Band on the River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Hook, Blues Traveler. Bob Seger, the Silver Bullet Band, still the one. Still the same, I'm sorry. That's a different group doing Still the One. And Creedence Clearwater Revival's Green River. Bassist Stu Cook, 53 today. Well, we should say ex-bassist. Creedence Clearwater Revival is 53 today. Bruce and the E Street Band, Prove It All Night before that. All on the River, 99.5 WRVE, 726. I'm Chris Warren. How are you? Got a good Saturday heading for you. Well, a little wet right now. I'll have the forecast for you in a bit. And under a half an hour from right now, 15, 20 minutes from right now, another River Mini Concert on our River Mini Concert Weekend. Got one from Simon and Garfunkel, some live stuff you haven't heard in a while on the River. You've heard by now that the Clintons did the responsible thing this week. They had Buddy neutered, their dog, yeah. Now, I know this opens up a wealth of opportunities for some real good lines here, but we're rated PG here this morning, so we'll pass on that. You can surf the net, maybe get some cool stuff from the river. Our website has some fun questions for you, and if you answer them, maybe you'll grab a weekend at the Copperfield Inn. That's a great bed and breakfast up in North Creek. All you have to do is set your web browser to www.wrve.com. Find the Rock and Roll Breakfast page for details and just have a good time. It's another way we're saying thanks for listening to the River 99.5 WRVE.
Pilot Tuesday.
Well, we're going to get rid of some of this wet stuff that might be falling near you. The color radar I've been watching here on the set in the studio, it shows that it's moving away. It'll get out of here. And then we'll get a partly sunny, windy day today, according to the WRVE weather. 59 for the high, clear tonight, 33 for the low, and then a cloudy, showery day perhaps tomorrow and a high of 53. So today, the better of the 2 days. Get out and enjoy it. Take us along with you. Cloudy, 47 from the river. Rock and roll without the hard edge. That means the best music from the last 30 years or so without any heavy metal. Here's Pat Benatar on the River 99.5 WRVE. The River 99.5 WRVE. Does that take you back or what? And does that define an era? 1968, yeah, psychedelia all over it again. She's a Rainbow, Rolling Stones, song you haven't heard in a while. We call those Oh Wow songs. And we like those so much, we do a whole day of them. Oh, Wow Wednesday, where every time you tune in, you find yourself listening to some stuff that you go, oh, wow, haven't heard that one in a while. We'll do some more later on this morning as well. Heard from Pink Floyd, another break in the wall. Pat Benatar did Hit Me with Your Best Shot. We're just minutes away from another River mini concert on this River mini concert weekend. And later on, not all that far from now, a few minutes from now, some Doors, Genesis, Little River Band, one of those Oh, Wow cuts, and Toad the Wet Sprocket in just a bit. We're 16 before 8 o'clock. I'm Chris Warren. Thanks for being here this morning. The WRVE weather does call for a part cloudy, 47 now. From the River, 99.5 WRVE.
We're proud. The prices vary.
It's a River mini concert weekend. Let's get live with Simon and Garfunkel on the River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Maybe you were in the crowd. Live at Central Park, the concert at Central Park, Simon and Garfunkel's Mrs. Robinson. Before that, Homeward Bound from back in 66. And still crazy after all these years from, I believe, the same concert with Paul Simon kind of doing his thing. On the River, that's a River mini concert. We're going to do another one later on this hour. We'll tell you who in just a few. Lots more rock and roll to come this morning. Standing by, and they really are. They're standing right over here. Now, I'm just pulling your leg. Genesis, Little River Band, and here's Toad the Wet Sprocket. I'm not going to tell you who I am. On the River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE. One you haven't heard in a while. We call those Oh Wow songs. That's Little River Band and Lady and Toad the Wet Sprocket, All I Want. The best classics, the best new music, a lot of songs you just can't hear anyplace else here on The River, 99.5 WRVE. Caution, don't cut off drum at end. Oh, I'm sorry. Should read that stuff before I open the microphone. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Eagles, Heartache Tonight. Doors, Light My Fire. Genesis, no reply at all on the River. Don't forget, we have a River Superstar concert coming up this Wednesday night at 10 o'clock featuring Genesis. Going back to some 1975 stuff that you really haven't heard in a long time, and I think you will enjoy. So be here 10 o'clock Wednesday night for that one. Still to come, some rock and roll from The Verve. Got Stevie Nicks coming up in a few moments. And in just 15 or 20 minutes or so, not too far down the road, another River mini concert. We are doing a River mini concert weekend. Got a special one for you. We put together some live Beatles, but we've done it individually, okay? We got Paul McCartney, George Harrison, Ringo Starr, and John Lennon with a special guest in just a little bit on our River mini concert in this hour. So stick around for that. Kind of probably one of the saddest times in Paul McCartney's life this week, and we've all been thinking about it and talking about it a bit on the radio, and I'm sure he's going through some emotions that perhaps you and I have felt, and you want to reach out, you want to do something, and he said, give to cancer charities and do what you can to help the folks. Here's a way you can do it today. Benefit auction for Pamela Townsend over in Rotterdam. Coins and jewelry will be auctioned off today at the Draper Middle School in Rotterdam. Doors open at 10 o'clock. The auction starts at 11 this morning, and check it out. If you need more details here, we're at 1-800-995-WRVE.
East Route 50, Boston Spa.
Here's WRVE weather. Not a bad start. Partly sunny, 45 right now. No matter how many times you tune in the river every day, you'll never hear the same song twice. Yeah, every day's a no-repeat day here on the river. 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Stevie Nicks, Edge of 17. And The Verve, Bittersweet Symphony before that. Their release that is very recent, 1998. That's this year, last I checked. The River, 99.5 WRVE. I'm Chris Warren. Welcome to a Saturday. Have a good one going, and a lot of rock and roll still ahead. Our River mini concert in a few minutes. Then some Rod Stewart, the Freddie Jones Band, Steve Winwood, and a hit from a group that Paul McCartney gave their real big hit start to back in the 1960s in just a few moments. Have you checked out the front page of the Daily Gazette this morning? Coco the gorilla is there. Coco evidently understands sign language, and they've got a picture of her, I guess it's a her. She doesn't say whether Coco is a he or she. Anyway, sitting in front of a computer and says Coco will go online Monday and answer questions translated by her tutor. It is a she. In what is being called the first interspecies chat over the internet. And I beg to differ. I know for a fact that Al Gore has been online before. Doesn't that count? I don't. Here's WRVE weather. A partly sunny day is ahead. Windy, partly sunny, 45 now at the River, 99.5 WRVE. It's a River mini concert weekend. We got a special one for you this hour. We've put together the Beatles in concert individually, with some help from each other in one case. We'll let them explain. On the River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE, a River mini concert weekend. Where else are you going to hear cuts like that? I mean, we've got the greatest CD collection going here, and we put together 3 songs by done live, of course, by Beatles. John Lennon with some help from Elton John, or the other way around, whatever gets you through the night. George Harrison and Ringo Starr, Here Comes the Sun. That was, I believe, from the concert for Bangladesh. And Paul McCartney's Drive My Car from Paul is live, all on the River. We're going to do another River mini concert here within the next hour. Stick around, tell you exactly who's coming up. I know for a fact that we've got rock and roll from the Freddie Jones Band in a few minutes, Badfinger, and here's Steve Winwood on the River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Great sound from Lucid. That's Freddie Jones Band and Wonder. Steve Winwood's Valerie before that. 909 with Chris. A wide variety of tunes for folks who just love their music. The River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE. For my money, one of the best albums ever made for rock and roll lovers. Fragile, that's Yes, Long Distance Runaround, and The Fix on the River. Also Rod Stewart, You're in My Heart, the final acclaim. And the group that Paul McCartney kind of gave a start to, they'd been around as the Ivies and had a minor hit called Maybe Tomorrow. Remember that? Probably not. Didn't do big things. I remember playing it on the radio myself many, many moons ago. In any event, Paul McCartney wrote their first big hit, Come and Get It. The song we heard, Day After Day, Badfinger, was their last hit back in 1972. On the River, where lots of rock and roll coming up. Yes, lots of rock and roll coming up, including the Pretenders on our, we've got the mini concert weekend going on. They're up in just a few moments. Stick around. Before that, some Eddie Money and Della Mitri, one of your favorites from 92 in just a few moments. On the River, 99.5 WRVE, a tip of the baseball cap this morning to Troy's Ezra Canty. Have you seen Ezra in the paper? He can be found also on the special edition of the Wheaties box featuring 5 of New York's Special Olympics athletes. Ezra says his hero Michael Jordan was on the box, so he's thrilled to be on the same cereal as his hero was. Good job, Ezra. Congratulations to all the gang that made that special edition available throughout New York for the next few weeks. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Weather's coming up next.
Hi.
Big savings today.
Well, the first part of your weekend is going to be the best weather-wise. Here's the WRVE weather right now. Partly sunny and 48 from the River. Rock and roll for adults. It's our specialty here. Here's Della Mitri on the River, 99.5 WRVE. The River, 99.5 WRVE. Cars, just what I needed from a CD called the Cars. I don't know why they named it that. Eddie Money, Just Take Me Home Tonight and Be My Little Baby. And Del Mitri's Always the Last to Know. That's from their album Change Everything from back in 92. Just don't change the station. Nah, you'll miss Bad Company, Hootie and the Blowfish, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and Bob Seger all coming up. And, of course, our River Mini Concert in just a few moments. Bev Jordan will kick that off after we do a couple of quick things here. I just wanted to mention to you that lunchtime gets here before you know it. I know for me, it's almost here. Monday through Friday, you've got a chance perhaps to get a visit from Tom and Lisa from the Rivers Rock and Roll Breakfast, and they'll have free lunch from Mr. Sub in their hands. Just bring it right to your office. Great idea, huh? All you have to do to get involved in that is send us a fax to the River Repeat Business Systems fax. It's at 452-4899. It's just one more way that we're the rock and roll radio station that works at work and just about every place else. The River. Let's check out that river weather. Partly right now, 48, partly sunny at the River, 99.5 WRVE.
To promote sales.
It's a River Mini Concert weekend. No kidding. And we're not pretending. That was really bad. Here's the Pretenders on the River, 99.5 WRVE.